Howdy, I'm Tim, and welcome to the Mr. Maple Show.
Hola, I'm Matt, and thanks for checking out another Mr. Maple video.
Today we've got a great video for you. We're doing an up-close look at one of our favorite plants. This is Acer palmatum, Lillian's Jewel.
Hey, this one's always in my top 5. People ask what your favorite Japanese maple is. That can change from day to day. The honest answer is, it depends on which one I'm looking at. This one is always near the front of that list for me. It is one of my favorite trees we do. It's one of the most colorful trees we do. Get excited, stay tuned. I think you're gonna like this one.
Talking about colors, we've got in the springtime this one here. If you put it in more shade, it can be a leaf out a little more green at first, but it just leaves out and starts going to some bright reds with white and pink variegation. So you get both of those colors. If you give it more sunlight, you hold those colors real well throughout the season of some bright pink reds. I typically want to give this some protection from the hot afternoon sun to really keep those colors in there the longest. And it's just vibrant pinks, vibrant whites on top of those reds. And that variegation is just electric. It goes to a bright crimson fall color as well. And when it's in a crimson fall color and the variegation's like a hot pink, it's just something that's out of this world.
Yeah, if you're giving this one some more sun, I think it is the best pink on red. So what this one's most famous for is that neon pink on bright red, and I think it's the best version of that. I'm a huge fan of that variegation in general. Lillian's Jewel is one of the most stable forms of a pink on red variegated tree. You always want to trim out anything on pink on red that's all one color, of the darker color. So if you get an all red branch, you want to take that out. All pink, that's pretty good. You want that variegation in there, but all red, you want to remove that. I remove very little, if any, on Lillian's Jewel. It is extremely stable, extremely brightly variegated, and one of the most eye-catching plants we've ever offered here at Mr. Maple. This one is a true dwarf. It doesn't get too big. We listed a 6 to 8 feet even in 10 years. Typically more on that 6-foot side. It's a little slower grower and just excellent shape and color. It's going to be very dense and full. It tends to make a small canopied upright. Think of a small vase shape overall as it fills out. Amazing plant, and that small vase shape is the perfect palette for all that bright pink on red color.
Let's talk uses. We've got a showstopper in the garden? Check. Lillian's Jewel with that variegation is going to stop a lot of people in their tracks when they're walking through the garden, and you're going to say, man, what is that? I want one. And when they ask that, tell them they can get it at Mr. Maple, because we offer it, and it's one of our favorite trees. This is a plant that you're going to want to put up close, but you can also enjoy it at a little bit of a distance because that variegation does show up. It looks almost like flowers on a tree as it gets bigger with that pink and white variegation. But that red color variegated, I really like to have this up next to a walkway, use as a focal point, use as a container plant. This is going to be a tree that's going to be a talking piece in your garden. So it's going to be one that you can tell we're excited about. Everyone's going to be excited about in your garden as well.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Hey Matt, where do you get your Japanese maples?
You know, even experts like us shop at MrMaple.com. At Mr. Maple, they do over 1,000 different varieties of Japanese maples. You're sure to find something you like at MrMaple.com. And don't forget to subscribe and like as well. Hey, this is a great tree for sun up to zone 8. Brian even mentioned he was growing this in full sun in Oklahoma. I've seen it in full sun in Simpsonville, South Carolina with great success, and even Columbia, South Carolina with great success. A very, very heat tolerant variegated plant. I think it's got so many great uses. It's going to look awesome in the shade as well, but it's one that can handle a little bit more sun than most of your more delicate pinks and whites. So the more sun you're getting on this, the more pink and red it's going to be. The more heavy shade you're getting, the more whites and greens are going to be mixed into that color palette, which can be pretty cool as well. Now you'll see this tree under a ton of different names. Bugs us when people rename trees. Lillian's Jewel is the correct name. You'll see a lot of people have thrown Little Annie's Jewel and other variations of that on there. I've actually met Lillian. She's one of my friend's daughter, and for that reason, I'll never change the name of a tree. So you'll see this one correctly listed on Mr. Maple as Lillian's Jewel. And Lillian, we actually met her when she was quite a young child. We got to go out and visit the late Del Laux. He is a famous nurseryman who's named so many amazing plants. You know, I wrote an article for the Maple Society about Del when he passed away, and said, like, this guy's kind of on the Mount Rushmore maple. You might not know his name, but you know his trees. And he's made so many amazing plants, whether it's Akakawa Hime, Emerald Lace, just so many amazing plants that he introduced. Cotton Candy, one of his later ones. Well, his grandson, Jonathan Savlich, named this tree Lillian's Jewel for his daughter, Lillian. And it's an amazing plant. It's one that has a historic history there in the maple world, coming from that Dell Laux nursery, and one I think you're going to love in your garden. Now, I have seen this one listed overseas as Extravaganza. I still like to stick with the original name. The Lillian's Jewel is the name, and it's always important. I might name a tree after one of my daughters one day. I don't want it changed. I want it to be the right name.
So if you see this out in the garden centers as Lillian or Little Ann incorrectly named, make sure to say, hey, this is actually Lillian's Jewel. And we want to try to get that corrected out there as much as we can, because we're sticklers for, this was named for somebody, to honor somebody.
Yeah.
It needs to be on there. I mean, we didn't find it, they found it. So they get to choose that name. And this is such a beautiful plant. I remember years ago, like Matt was talking about, going and getting real good friends with Dell Laux and Jonathan, and just becoming real good friends with them. And this was like the pinnacle tree. They had it there. We freaked out about it.
Yeah, we saw this tree at their place, and we actually bought the very first ever graft that Dell let leave the nursery. So we were the very first ones to get this from him. We kind of helped popularize it a little bit, I would say, early on. We used to do some eBay sales, and these would go quite astronomical on the charts.
I would say the first 300 of these sold as liners
for a good bit.
For way more than anyone's ever bought something directly on Mr. Maple.
Right.
When people start getting a bidding war online, many of them went upwards for $300. And it's an amazing plant. We've got some really good sizes of them right now. Right now we're in late March of 2022.
So this size is indicative of March 2022. I always like to tell people that. If you're watching this a year from now, these could be slightly larger or slightly smaller. This size is typical of what we carry right now.
And I would consider this a large 1 gallon for a Lillian's Jewel.
Yeah, these are excellent size on this dwarf.
Typically, we're talking 8-10 inches on most Lillian's Jewels in gallons. So a fantastic deal on this size for these 1 gallons of Lillian's Jewels.
I don't think these will make it through spring very far. As people get into spring and get out there and get that gardening bug, this is one of my favorite plants. It's one that when people find out about it, they got to have it. We've actually got it out there a little bit more, so it's starting to get a little more common in the trade. It's a good thing. It's brought that price down. It's not the rarest thing we offer anymore, but it's still among my favorite. It may not be our most rare maple anymore, but it's still one that has a dear place to my heart for the color pattern. Certainly the first time I saw it, it made my heart skip a beat. I was like, that is crazy looking.
I like to take this plant and plant it next to something like Golden Falls that's going to have a completely different habit, and then some good gold color, or put it next to something like Jordan or Summer Gold, because the stark contrast between the yellow and the reds and the pinks are just going to make that electric wow factor out there in the garden.
Leafing out here in the greenhouse, even in our filtered light, these will get a little bit greener. So these are a little bit greener than they'll be even in like a week or two, even in here. They'll get a little bit darker red even under our filtered light condition. In the ground, these will get very dark. If you get them in early morning sun, late day shade, that's typically your preferred location for this one. You're going to peak those colors up. You're going to carry that spring color later into the season with some late day shade. It's an excellent maple for a container because you can kind of play around with your location of it, and that smaller overall size lends itself extremely well to container gardening. It's a showstopper though. This is one that's going to bring the high drama, high intensity, everything flashy you could ever want in a Japanese maple flash-wise, you're going to get in this one. People see this and they get excited. Hey, we know you love getting Brian on camera here, so I bug him every chance I get to get him on here more. Brian, you had an amazing garden with so many different plants in it. Were you growing Lillian's Jewel in your Oklahoma garden?
I sure was, and it was probably one of my favorites in my garden, honestly. I got it later in the time that I had my garden, so I didn't get to enjoy it as long as I would hope to have. And I was thinking the other day, are there any that I would like to duplicate here in North Carolina? Because I was wanting to try out some new cultivars. But I think the Lillian's Jewel is something I'm going to have to add back very soon.
Yeah.
And these are some great sizes, so I think this might be the time to do it.
Right. You were mentioning before, you've talked a lot actually in the past about how hot it was in Oklahoma in that garden. How did Lillian's Jewel hold up in those kind of high heat conditions you had it? And did you have it in sun or shade?
Yeah, I was so impressed with this cultivar. I really was. A lot of the variegateds are kind of a delicate tree. You've got to tuck them in underneath the shade. But I kind of tested the waters with this and put it out as much sun as I could get it to where it wasn't burning the leaves. But man, the color on that, I mean, it was just it'd blow your brains out. I guarantee you. That pink color was just absolutely amazing. Electric. I mean, I had it next to a Katsura, and those combinations was just out of this world.
I think the main picture I use of it right now is a picture you took of
Yeah.
that tree in sun.
Right.
Certainly sun picks up those colors and just gives you some amazing
It really
dynamics
does.
to this one. The shape has really impressed me too. I mean, it's not something that's going to be gigantic, so you can kind of stay in that interacting phase size.
Yeah,
It's not going to be
absolutely.
like a massive tree.
Yeah, you get to really get on top of that and see that variegation and just really enjoy it. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of different variegated cultivars out there, but there's nothing quite like Lillian's Jewel.
It's special. Thanks for watching our video on Lillian's Jewel. These are some great sizes right now, and we hope you enjoyed this little more detailed look at them. There's some really nice sizes in these, so we wanted to get what we had currently available kind of in front of you. These are very typical of the size we're offering right now in March of 2022, so we wanted to show you exactly kind of what you can expect for these right now.
I'd say don't miss out on these. These are some great sizes, and this is such a cool plant that you're going to want in your garden, so why not get one that's got some great size to it right now. I'd go ahead and pull the trigger because these are going to sell out quick, and this is a plant that I think a lot of y'all will enjoy in your landscape and garden. Make sure to like this video. Make sure to buy one of these on Mr. Maple. Make sure to sign up for our weekly emails on MrMaple.com. That's how you find out about all the cool new neat trees coming out. So if you're watching this at a later point, you can actually figure out when this is coming back available again. And if you have any comments, put those in the comments section. We greatly appreciate y'all so much.
Hey, this is just the beginning of the discussion. The comment section below, you can continue that discussion there. It's a great way to ask us questions you'd like to see in future videos. So let us know down there if there's trees you'd like for us to highlight that we haven't yet, or questions you'd like answered here on the Mr. Maple Show. Make sure to stay tuned for more. We're putting out videos pretty much daily right now. We hope to keep that up as we get into this busy spring season. So definitely be staying tuned for that. God bless.
And have a great day.